Louisville, Kentucky, 1954. A 12-year-old Cassius Clay stormed into a local police station, furious. His red Schwinn bike had been stolen. He didn't want help. He wanted revenge. The officer on duty was Joe Martin, who also ran a local boxing gym. He looked at the kid and said, "Before you fight somebody, you better learn how." Clay showed up to the Columbia gym the next day and never stopped. Every morning before school, he rode 5 miles to the gym, rain or shine. Other kids played. He trained. While they complained, he asked for more. Joe Martin would later say he was always the first in and the last out. After Olympic gold in Rome, 18-year-old Clay sought out Angelo Dundee, a trainer known for sharpening champions. Dundee didn't try to change him. He enhanced him. Where others saw flaws, Dundee saw brilliance. Hands too low, feet moving too much. That was Ali's rhythm. Together they studied opponents for hours, then drilled exact counters in the ring, strategy and timing crafted to perfection. Ali's training grind. Ali's day began before the world woke up. 4:30 a.m., cold, dark, quiet. He laced up heavy boots, not running shoes, and hit the road. 5 miles minimum, sometimes 7, sometimes more. No heart rate monitors, no GPS watches, just instinct, grit, and the rhythm of his breath. He'd pick a tree in the distance, a hill, a barn, a light pole, and sprint to it like he was chasing down greatness. Because in his mind, he wasn't alone on that road. Somewhere, Joe Frazier is sleeping, he'd say, and I'm out here leaving him behind. In the freezing winters of Deer Lake, Pennsylvania, Ali ran through snow-covered roads, breath fogging the air, his entourage trailing behind in cars, headlights lighting up the path. And he didn't run in silence. He talked, he rhymed, he predicted, poems in motion, building lungs and legend at the same time. After breakfast and rest came the gym. No weightlifting, no bodybuilding. Ali believed muscles slow you down and speed was his weapon. His strength came from repetition, rhythm, flow, thousands of punches on the heavy bag, endless rounds of shadowboxing, sparring until sweat dripped from his shoes. His speed bag work? Nautic, musical. 15 minutes without missing a beat, building endurance, timing, precision. On the heavy bag, he didn't plant and punch like most. He moved, circled, danced, throwing combinations while staying light on his feet, training his body to hit while never being hit. And then there was the axe. At Deer Lake, he chopped wood for hours, building functional power in his back, shoulders, and core. The kind of strength that didn't flex in the mirror, but held up in round 15, when Frazier was still throwing bombs. The champ don't need to look strong, Bandini Brown said. He needs to be strong when it counts. The dancing master. What truly separated Ali from every heavyweight before or since was his footwork. He moved like a middleweight despite standing 6'3" and weighing over 200 pounds. Each day, Ali dedicated hours to footwork drills. He'd skip rope for 20 minutes without stopping, mastering patterns that transferred directly to the ring, the double step, crossovers, and his signature shuffle. Ali installed a full-length mirror in his gym to monitor his own movement. He'd shadowbox for 12 rounds straight, evaluating every step, pivot, and weight transfer. If his reflection showed even the slightest imperfection in balance or positioning, he'd drill that movement repeatedly until it disappeared. Ferdy Pacheco, Ali's fight doctor, noted, most heavyweights train to withstand punishment. Ali trained to avoid it altogether. The Ali shuffle, that lightning-fast dance of feet that mesmerized opponents, wasn't just showmanship. It was tactically designed to confuse opponents' timing and create openings for combinations. Ali would practice the move hundreds of times daily until it became second nature. Ali often trained in boots heavier than his boxing shoes. When fight night came and he laced up his lightweight boxing shoes, his feet felt liberated, faster. The defensive genius. Ali's defensive system, built around his unmatched reflexes, timing, and agility, relied on slipping and dodging punches with subtle head movement and footwork. Rather than blocking punches with his gloves, Ali would often lean back or pivot just enough for blows to miss by inches, a technique that became one of his trademarks. To train this ability, Ali had sparring partners throw hundreds of jabs at his face while he practiced slipping them with minimal movement. Over time, this developed into his famous pull counter, leaning away from a jab, then countering over the top with a straight right hand. To strengthen his neck for this style, Ali performed isometric exercises, pressing his head against the ropes or having trainers apply resistance as he moved his head in different directions. His rope-a-dope strategy, most famously employed against George Foreman in Zaire, wasn't improvised on fight night. Ali had specifically trained his body to absorb punishment against the ropes. In training, he'd have sparring partners unload combinations while he covered up, conditioning his arms, shoulders and core to absorb impact. Angelo Dundee would say later, "The Foreman fight plan was months in the making. Muhammad conditioned his body to take those shots. He'd sit against the ropes in training and have guys pound on him until they got tired." He was preparing for Foreman long before anyone knew. The mind of a champion. Ali's brilliance wasn't just in his fists, it was in his mind. His ring IQ was a chess grandmaster's, a blend of instinct, observation, and psychological warfare. He studied opponents like a detective, not just their punches but their tells. The way Sonny Liston's shoulders tensed before a hook, how Joe Frazier's eyes flicked before a lunge. During sparring, Ali would let partners land glancing blows, not to take punishment but to learn their rhythm, to predict their next move. He didn't just fight bodies, he fought souls, using taunts, feints, and that dazzling smile to unravel his rivals before the first bell. Ali's preparation was meticulous. He'd spend hours in dark rooms watching grainy fight tapes on a flickering projector, analyzing every detail, Floyd Patterson's footwork, Archie Moore's defense. This wasn't just scouting, it was psychology. Ali knew boxing was as much about outthinking as outpunching. He'd practice scenarios in the gym, imagining specific moments in a fight, how he'd counter a left hook, how he'd bait an overeager opponent into a mistake. His mind was a battlefield, and he was always 3 moves ahead. Mental strength was Ali's bedrock. He'd sit in silence for hours, visualizing fights down to the smallest detail, every jab, every dodge, every roar from the crowd. He wrote poetry, not just to boast, but to build confidence, turning "I am the greatest" into a shield against doubt. He'd meditate, finding calm amid the storm of training, grounding himself in a belief that was unshakable. When his body begged to stop, his mind roared, "Keep going." That discipline turned a boxer into a legend, a man who could stare down the world and never blink. Today's fighters lean on teams, coaches, analysts, even neuroscientists to sharpen their mental game. Ali had Angelo Dundee, a few trusted voices, and his own iron will. Modern training is collaborative, with apps to track focus and psychologists to manage stress. Ali's mental preparation was solitary, fueled by an inner fire that no app could measure. The sports culture has shifted, less room for the lone genius, more for the system. Ali's psychological warfare, his ability to outthink opponents through sheer intuition, was a product of a grittier era. Replicating that in today's structured, data-driven world feels like chasing a phantom. The exile years. In 1967, when Ali refused military induction during the Vietnam War, he was stripped of his heavyweight title and banned from boxing during what should have been his prime years, from age 25 to almost 29. These exile years revealed the true depth of Ali's discipline. Without a fight on the horizon, without a paycheck coming, he continued to train. While traveling the country, giving speeches at colleges, Ali maintained a modified training regimen. He would run before dawn in unfamiliar cities, shadowbox in hotel rooms, and do calisthenics to maintain his conditioning. His former sparring partner, Eddie Bossman Jones, recalled, "Even without boxing, he stayed in shape." Not fight shape, but better condition than most active fighters. His discipline never wavered. When Ali finally returned to boxing in 1970 against Jerry Quarry, many expected ring rust from the layoff. Instead, they saw a more mature, tactically sound fighter who had used his exile to study the sport intellectually, watching fights and developing strategies he couldn't yet implement. The comeback training. For the 1974 Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman, Ali faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge. At 32, he was the underdog against a younger, stronger champion who had demolished Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, men who had beaten Ali. Ali's training for Foreman was revolutionary. He hired a team of sparring partners specifically chosen to mimic Foreman's style, big, strong punchers who would push forward relentlessly. But the most innovative aspect was Ali's punch absorption training. For weeks, He conditioned his body to take punishment by having partners throw hundreds of body punches against the ropes. He wasn't just preparing technically, he was physically hardening himself for the strategy that would shock the world. Ali also trained in Zaire for months before the fight, acclimating to the heat and humidity, running through the African countryside before dawn, building relationships with locals who became his psychological advantage on fight night. The thriller in Manila against Joe Frazier in 1975 demanded different preparation. Now 33, Ali focused on extreme endurance. He expanded his roadwork to 7 to 8 miles daily in the Philippine heat, often running in the hottest part of the day, to condition himself for the tropical climate of the fight venue. Ali's sparring for Manila was brutal, over 200 rounds by some accounts. He specifically practiced fighting in the center of the ring, recognizing that against Frazier's relentless pressure, he needed to establish control of the geography of the fight. Knowing the fight would test his will as much as his skills, Ali incorporated psychological visualization daily, mentally rehearsing, persevering through exhaustion and pain. The lost arts. Today's elite boxers train differently than Ali did. Modern sports science has optimized recovery, nutrition and performance metrics in ways unavailable in Ali's era. Today's fighters benefit from advanced analytics, biomechanical analysis, and periodized training schedules. Yet something has been lost in this optimization. Ali's training had a raw quality missing from today's sanitized training camps. He didn't have heart rate monitors or punch output trackers. He measured effort through sweat and exhaustion. He didn't count calories. He simply ate clean, natural foods prepared in his training camp. Modern fighters rarely chop wood or haul rocks like Ali did at Deer Lake. They don't run in work boots on gravel roads in freezing temperatures. Their training, while more scientifically sound, lacks the character-building discomfort Ali embraced daily. The modern boxer's workload would shock Ali. Today's elite fighters train intensely but briefly, rarely more than 3 to 4 hours daily, with careful attention to recovery. Ali's training days often stretched to 7 to 8 hours of total work, with minimal recovery protocols beyond ice and rest. Perhaps most significantly, modern fighters cannot replicate Ali's mental approach. In an age of social media and constant connectivity, they cannot achieve the monastic focus Ali found in his Deer Lake training camp, isolated from distraction, singularly devoted to his craft. The legacy of discipline. Muhammad Ali's greatness wasn't born of natural talent alone. It was forged through a training philosophy that treated boxing as both physical challenge and spiritual practice. His road work began before dawn so he could murder the sunrise, beating even the day itself to his work. His thousands of rounds of shadowboxing perfected movements that seemed improvisational, but were actually deeply rehearsed. His rope skipping built the dancing feat that would become his signature. His sparring developed the reflexes that let him lean away from punches by millimeters. But beyond techniques and methods, Ali's great